everyone, nice to meet you all. My name is Stephanie and I will be starting vet school at the University of Florida. Go Gators! I am making this video because I want to help all of you out that are currently applying to vet school, will be applying to vet school, maybe are thinking about applying. I printed here my VMCAS application and I am so excited to go over everything with you all. I'm going to be super honest, super real about my personal experience. I know how overwhelming it can be, especially having to input all of this information, having to ask for rec letters, having to write all these essays, having to figure out how many animals I've worked with my entire life and how many hours. But guess what? I made it, so I know you can make it too, and I'm just really excited to help you all throughout this journey. It's honestly such a fun time and it's all worth it, okay? So just feel free to message me if you have any questions, any concerns, if you just want to vent to me, if you need some motivation. I am here for all of you, okay? So yeah, let's get started. I really hope you enjoy. Mwah. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to say something really fast, and that is that you need to believe in yourself, okay? You need to be your #1 fan throughout this entire process, because when you start questioning yourself, when you start doubting yourself, when you start looking on Facebook and going like, am I a good applicant? Like, this girl has a 6.9 GPA. Is that even possible? I don't even know. Is my GRE good enough? Is my GPA good enough? Or do I have enough hours? Like, are my rec letters good enough? Are my essays good enough? Like, am I even good at punctuation? I don't even know. No. That's when you lose focus. And we don't want that here, okay? At all. We don't want that here. Because why? Why are you going to put that energy out if you know that if you're currently applying or you're thinking about applying, it's because you know in your heart that you're capable of getting in. That's it. You're going to get in, okay? Because if you know that this is something you want to do, that's because you're meant to do it. You're meant to do it and you will get in, okay? So if you ever think that you're starting to compare yourself and you're like, oh my God, like, no. Get off Facebook, get off that Doctors Network page that I was on all 24/7, and I was like, I need to block this page because it's stressing me out. Get away, and just focus on you, okay? You are the most important person in this process because you're the one that's gonna get in. You're the one that's gonna become a doctor. You're the one that's gonna save so many freaking lives, okay? Mwah. Okay, so let's get started. We're going to skip over biographic information because those are just some basic questions about yourself, and we're going to go straight into academic history. So in academic history, they ask you for your GRE scores, colleges you've attended. They ask you to list all of your coursework like this. It looks bad, but it's just super tedious. And then your GPA. So for my GRE, I got a 151 in verbal, 154 quantitative, and a 4 in analytical writing. Super average scores. I am not a good standardized tester, so I studied for 1 whole month every day for like 6 to 7 hours, and I can list all of the books I used down below. I know a lot of schools are moving away from the GRE, so don't really stress over it too much. I know UF got rid of it for this upcoming cycle. So if you actually don't have to take it, that's awesome for you. I really hope you don't have to take it because the exam is super annoying and long. But yeah, let's see. Then you write the colleges you've attended, and then you write all of your coursework. So one thing I recommend is to print out your transcript, like have like a physical copy, and that way you can just input the information while looking at the transcript and not have to open so many tabs in your computer, because I was like, and then like I would lose something and then like it was a whole thing. Let's see. So courses I had to retake. So it happens to the best of us. I know sometimes you just have a bad semester and then you have to retake a course, and don't even worry about it. I had to retake Organic Chemistry 1, but when I retook it, I got an A-, so yeah, it was super awesome. I felt super good just because that class is so hard, but it went well. I think what I recommend is that if you are going to retake a course, retake it and do really well in it, just to show them that, hey, I had a really bad semester, but I can do this, okay? What else? I am an A and B student, so yeah. I also had to withdraw from Physics 1 because, again, so hard. And I actually retook it at a college near my home because I wanted to be up here, well, down here in Miami for the summer. And I took Physics 1 and 2 at FIU, so that was super cool. And I did good in them. And then for the GPA, dun dun dun. I know you all stress about this, and I know it's like a whole thing, but my cumulative undergrad GPA was a 3.37, and my overall science is a 3.22. They actually calculate it for you. I don't know how they calculate it. I think for each school it's different because they consider some science classes for their curriculum differently than others, so I don't know how that works. But yeah, those were my GPAs. Super average, and yeah, I was worrying about it while applying because, again, I also compared myself to other candidates, and unfortunately you do get in your head, and I was like, oh my god, is my GPA too low? I was freaking out, but I got in. So okay, so now we're going to talk about all of the experiences, and we're going to start with vet experience with a veterinarian. And before I get started with this, I just wanted to give a little background information about me, and that is that in high school I had no clue what I wanted to do or be, and I was freaking out, especially in senior year when we started applying to colleges and all the applications kept asking you what major you want to pursue, and I'd be like, I have no clue. But then one of my family members was like, hey, why don't you try something with animals? Because since you were little, you've been obsessed with animals. And it's true. I had baby pictures with a ton of animals, and it was like a connection. There was a connection there. And the one thing that was discouraging me about it was that there are no doctors or vets in my family. So I thought, like, that's a lot. And I was honestly scared of pursuing something in medicine. But wow, now, like, you know, like, life is crazy. But yeah, that's not the important part. The important part is that one of my family members was like, why don't you do an internship and, like, you know, get a feel of how it is to work as a vet? So I was like, okay, that sounds cool. And I ended up getting an internship over the summer at a local vet hospital. And I wore my little scrubs that day, and I was super excited, and wow, it was amazing. It was like, I might start crying, but like, it opened my eyes, and I realized that that's what I wanted to do. And that's something I recommend to all of you. If you don't know what you want to do yet, call vets, doctors, lawyers, whatever you want to do, and just be like, hey, can I just go shadow you for a day? And just get the experience and, like, go out in the field, because learning it in classrooms is completely different to actually being there and seeing people's reactions to certain things and you know, being just in the moment. And yeah, that's what I recommend. So after I did my internship, I realized that was what I wanted to do, and I decided to apply to UF because that was the only vet school in Florida, and I was thinking ahead, so in-state tuition. But yeah, so I ended up applying and I got into UF, and that was super exciting, and that's when I decided to pursue my vet career. So for going back to this, for the experiences, the first thing I have listed is the vet experience here at the hospital, my internship, and I got around 100 hours in that. And then when you list these things, they just ask you the experience type, then they ask you the recognition type, title, employer, supervisor, and then you have to write all the hours you did there, and then a little, like, summary of what it was you did. So let's see. So after that, when I got to UF, I actually went straight into the UF hospital, and I contacted the academic advisor as a little freshman, and I was like, hi, like, I really want to volunteer. And my first semester, second semester, third semester, and fourth semester, I was a volunteer at cardio, onco, integrative, and radiology. And it was so cool just because since it's a teaching hospital, there's a bunch of departments, and I just got to see so many different things. I got to work with so many different vets, and it was so cool. So if you are interested in being a vet, one thing I recommend is to definitely, once you go to college, start volunteering, you know, get that experience. And that way you get exposed to these things, and it makes you more motivated because you're going to be taking all of these tedious courseworks, and it gets hard to stay motivated because you're like, oh my god, like, is my whole life going to be studying? And yes, it is, but you also need to remind yourself the end goal. And when you work with all of these veterinarians, you're like, oh my god, I can't wait. Okay, so the rest of my experiences with a veterinarian include the volunteer hours I did at the hospital, at UF Hospital, and then I'm going to read you the description just so you get an idea of how you should word what you're writing. And I wrote, As a volunteer at the UF Small Animal Hospital, I was stationed at medical oncology, radiation oncology, cardiology, and integrative medicine, where I worked alongside veterinarians and technicians. At oncology, I helped administer chemotherapy along with radiation therapy. In cardiology, I helped restrain patients when performing procedures such as inserting pacemakers or administering echocardiograms. In integrative medicine, I would help with rehabilitation procedures such as the underwater treadmill, laser therapy, or acupuncture. And then something I also have is that after 2 years of volunteering at UF Vet, the volunteer coordinator contacted me and she was like, hey, we're hiring. Do you want a job? And I was like, yes! So not only was I going to work with vets, I was going to get paid. So I was super excited and I got a position in the neurology department and I got to work with an incredible staff. I looked forward to all of my days. Every single day. It was amazing. And when you know, you know. When you wake up and you want to go to work and see what patients we have today and just experience everything, that's when you know this is something you should pursue. No matter how hard it is, okay? Because we are all capable of doing anything we set our minds to, okay? And then, yeah, so I worked there for 2 years and then I got around 700 hours for that. And then I also did a study abroad program, which I think I'm gonna make a whole different video for this because this is something I think just all of you should experience because it was incredible. So I studied abroad in Belize and I did a program called Cela Belize. And in this program, we went to Belize and it was a 2-week program and we worked with vets with all kinds of large animals. We worked with pigs, with sheep, we worked with horses, and then we also worked with small animals in like a free spay and neuter clinic we did it for like this little village. And then we also did bat trapping, and then at night we would go party with the vets, and it was just like a very it felt like we were a family for like 2 weeks because we were doing everything together. We'd wake up together, have breakfast together. We would then go and see the cows, and it was amazing. It was amazing, and the vets were super incredible, and I met so many great people that I still talk to today, and I'm so thankful for this experience, and I tell everyone, you have to do this. And also, in my interview, the interview had finished and one of the interviewers was like, hey, can you tell me more about the study abroad program? And I was like, yes. So think about it. The interview's finished. These people want to go home and he asked me more. He wanted to know more. So it is something that is interesting to people because not everybody does it, you know? I got like 70 hours out of that and I'm going to read the description again so you get an idea. Studying abroad in Belize, we learned hands-on veterinary examination techniques at ranches and farms working with horse, sheep, cattle, and pigs. We also learned about animal agriculture in the area, including analyzing laboratory specimens. We had classroom sessions on anatomy, physiology, and pathology to lay the foundation of knowledge needed to confront animal husbandry and diseases. We also performed basic veterinary care such as physical examination and basic suture techniques, along with preventative medicine, reproductive management medicine, and surgery. So yeah, so those are my experience with a veterinarian. So now we're going to talk about animal experience with no veterinarian. And one thing I did in high school that was really cool was that I was the international ambassador for Huellitas de Amor, which is a nonprofit organization in Venezuela, where I'm from. And what I would do was that I would make brownies, I would make cookies at home, and then I would sell them in my high school, and I would collect money and then send them down to the representatives in Venezuela. And then I would also collect beds, toys, foods, and anything that shelters over there might need. And I did that for around 1 year and I got over 1,000 hours out of that, so that was super, super cool. And then I also was a teaching assistant in college for one of my favorite professors. He teaches Intro to Animal Science, and as a teaching assistant, I was able to work in the labs, and I would help undergraduate students just get some of the information. I would help them out in like upcoming exams. I would also help with lesson plans, and it was super cool. I am really interested in teaching, so it just reinforced my love for it, so I'm really happy I got that experience. And then, let's see. I was also an active member for the Minority Pre-Vet Club and the Normal Pre-Vet Club. So in those things, you would list them as animal experience with no veterinarians, because even though we went to like retirement home for horses, and we would go to all of these places in Gainesville, and we would work with animals, but there wasn't really a vet involved. We would go to the zoos, and we would get like VIP access, and we would get to like hold some of the animals, and it was super cool, but no veterinarian was involved. So that's the difference between these two categories. So I also went to Georgia for a winter break, and I went with a group of girls, and we played the Justin Bieber album the whole way down. And it was so funny because every time I listen to a Justin Bieber song, I think of that trip. We stayed at a church, and we slept in like sleeping bags, and then we stayed there for a couple of days, and we worked at the Humane Society in Georgia, and it was a super random cool experience. I got to meet super cool girls, and it was a really cool experience. So that would be listed as animal experience with no vet, because even though we were working with animals, we were just walking them, bathing them, cleaning their cages, so it wasn't really anything vet related. And then another one of my experiences, which was one of my best experiences, was that I did an internship at Sunshine Zoological Preserve. It is this place in McAlpin, Florida, and I got to work with all kinds of exotics. They had a lot of primates. I worked with a bunch of monkeys. There were bears. There was a beaver. There were all kinds of birds. There were camels, zebras, deer. It was kangaroos. I love kangaroos. They're my favorite. They're one of my favorite animals. And what else? Yeah, that was super cool. I got to stay in one of their trailers, and it was so much fun. Like, I loved the family, and I loved working with all the animals. And that was an animal experience with no vet, because I did most of like the husbandry stuff. I would feed them, give them their medications. I would check up on them, and we had a lot of births. So I got to see a deer and a zebra, and it was little babies, and it was so cool. Okay, so now we're going to talk about research, and for research, this is just its own category, and it has to do whether you did undergraduate research, and I had the pleasure of doing undergraduate research, and I really recommend it because it is so cool. I did research with dairy cattle, which is one of my favorite animals, and we worked with like heat stressor groups, so there my main thing was to draw blood from the cattle, and then we would do lab work with the blood and like do different things. And I remember the day before I was gonna start, I watched so many YouTube videos of how to draw blood from a cow's tail through the coccygeal groove, and I wrote everything down. I did like a huge diagram, and I was like, okay, you're gonna grab the syringe like this, whatever. And I remember the first day I got there, my first cow, and the vet gave me the syringe, and I lifted the tail, and I froze. Like, I was like, I saw it, but I froze, and I was freaking out, and he's like, you got this, and I'm like, oh my god. So it is like a little lesson, like, it's very different when you learn it in class than when you apply it. I ended up becoming a huge expert on it, and I was like, what's up, lift tail, get blood, next, and it was so cool. And then we would do lab work with the blood, so I also fell in love with lab work in this research. And yeah, that was my experience. I got 500 hours through that. And yeah. Okay, so one thing I recommend with research is to look up any websites that your school provides. I'm going to link the one in UF that I use. And then also contact professors, because most of them, they don't list them in the websites. But if you contact them and you're like, hey, like, are you doing any research that you might need help in? And I can also provide like the format of how to ask them. And yeah, so that's my little like recommendation. Okay, so now we're going to talk about extracurricular activities, and with this I talked about my involvement with the minority and the normal pre-vet club, and then I also talked about my involvement as an international ambassador for C'est la Belize, the study abroad program I mentioned, and then also my involvement with the Hispanic Student Association. So remember, these things don't have to be animal related, they're just stuff you were involved with, organizations, clubs in your college. And I was really involved with this program called Member Leadership Program, and I started off as a member, and then I became a career development, and then I became a director, and it was super cool, and I met super awesome people, and it was just really, really cool being around my people, and I felt at home every time I went to the meetings and every time we did activities, so that was awesome. Okay, so now employment. And with employment, these are things that are not animal related, so I wouldn't list my position as a vet assistant here because that is animal related. So for here, I wrote about my employment at McDonald's when I was in high school, and then Brain Freeze, which was a nitrogen ice cream shop, and I used to work at fast food places in my high school because free food. So yeah, And then in college, I was a technology consultant for AT Labs at UF, and I would work at the libraries. I would help with like any computer malfunctions. I would help with printing, and I wore my little cute vest and I walk around the library, and it was super awesome. Again, nothing to do with animals, just to get that experience in like other fields. And then I was also a resident assistant for my 3 years in college. I lived in the residence halls my freshman year, and then I applied to become an RA, and I did. And wow, I did communal bathrooms for 3 years, communal kitchens for 3 years, sharing them with over 40 girls, which was an incredible experience. And again, it's not animal related, but the things I learned here were so helpful, not only for my interview, but as a veterinarian, you know, because even though we are going to be working with animals, we also have to be working with the client, with other vets, with other medical professionals, and we have to have those inter and intrapersonal skills to be able to be good people, you know? So yeah, the RA job was incredible. I was able to be kind of like a big sister for all of my girls, and I had a lot of experience with dealing with conflicts, dealing with emergencies, dealing with you know, anything that my residents were going through when they were stressed out, when something happened personally in their families. And I was just there. It was a very rewarding job, and I was able to help a lot of girls grow, and I worked with an incredible staff and an incredible supervisor, and I'm really, really thankful for the job. I don't know how I did the communal bathroom and communal kitchen for 3 years, but I have my apartment now, so I'm so excited, and I have my own bathroom. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. But those are my employments, not animal related. And yep. Okay, so now let's talk about the essays. And I know this is like the most tedious part after you've inputted all your coursework. And the one thing I do recommend is to take each one step by step and just sit down with your laptop, put your phone on airplane mode, get a coffee, get an energy drink, and just write. Just write everything that comes into your mind. Write. Forget about grammar, forget about punctuation. Just write. Make a template and then go over it and kind of get the feeling of the vibe of like how you're trying to answer this question, and that way then you can like go about and fix it and then actually make it into the essay, you know? I think that's what works for me. And then another thing I want to recommend is to get it revised. Get it revised by as many people as you can, because that way you're able to get a bunch of feedback and make the essays as strong as possible, okay? I got mine revised by like, I want to say like 10 people each. So that way I was able to like get a lot of feedback. And yeah, I think my essays came out really, really well. I would be willing to help all of you out in like editing it and like fixing it. And one thing I recommend is just be yourself. Like, show them why you want to be a vet. Show them your passions, show them your skills, show them your love for this, you know? And all of our stories are different, so don't worry about sounding like everyone else. Like, your own story will have its own little twist, its own little spice, so don't even worry about that. And what else? Yeah, that's pretty much it for the essays. Get it revised. And meet with your advisor so she can help you out and maybe give you opinions of what you should write about, because I wrote the essays without getting my advisor's approval, and then I went to talk to her and she was like, I don't think you're answering the prompt. And I'm like, really? So I had to like rewrite each essay again, and it was a whole thing, but I ended up doing it, and I'm really proud of them. I read it to a lot of people, and a lot of friends helped me out, so thank you all for that. Another thing is that when you get it revised, try to use the writing studios in your college, or there are some free writing studios online, and that way you can get feedback from like people that, you know, like are professionals in writing, and they can like fix your grammar and fix the way you're saying things. Because a lot of times like I would say something and like it would make so much sense in my head, and then like I figured like I used the comma wrong and like the semicolon, and I was like but then they fixed it for me, so then it made it more flowy, you know? So definitely get it revised by someone that's like a professional. I used my writing studio at UF, and it was super helpful. I went like every single day and I gave them all my essays, so that was really, really helpful. And then as well, use your friends. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about rec letters and evaluations. And the one thing I recommend is quality over quantity, okay? Don't get a bunch of letters, but get letters from those people that you've worked with, that support you, that love you, that want you to be a vet, and they want the best for you, because that's where the best letters are going to be at, okay? Another thing, ask on time. I asked my evaluators in January, and then the application was due early September, so they had more than enough time to write it, to revise it, to talk to me about it, and that way we had amazing letters, you know? I got my letters from 2 vets at Neuro that I worked with, my advisor, and then my supervisor for one of my jobs as an RA. And when you are gonna ask, you can either email them or go in person. It honestly just depends on your relationship with the person and their availability, you know, because for some I emailed them and for some I went in person. And I know you feel awkward, and I know you feel like, oh my god, like I don't want to ask, I feel like they're so busy. But no, that's like part of their job, and if they support you and love you, they're gonna write that letter and it's gonna be amazing because they want you to succeed, you know? So one of the people, one of the doctors I got the letter from, I actually wasn't gonna ask her, and then when I was applying, she sent me an email and she was like, hey, are you applying to psycho? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, oh my god, can I please write you a letter? Like, I want to write you a letter. And I was just like, that is so awesome, you know? Like, she's asking me to write me a letter. Like that's amazing, you know? Those are the type of people you want to surround yourself with, and those are the type of people that you want to help you with the application, because they're gonna make you look amazing, okay? Because you are amazing, okay? Okay, so we are done with the VMCAS. I really hope this was helpful for you all. Some last minute tips I want to give is to use each other, okay? We are all going through this process of becoming doctors, and you cannot see each other as competition, okay? You have to see each other as help. We should be helping each other strive forward, because as you all know, suicide and depression and mental disorders are a very big thing in the vet world, and the last thing we want is for our peers and the people we're working with to bring us down. So my thing went to like low battery. I hope I'm still filming. Okay, whatever. So yeah, one thing I recommend is to join the Facebook groups where people are also applying, and there's like current vet students, and that way you can ask questions. And when you're feeling not motivated, just post there, and like you'll see how many people bring you up. Like, that's how this should be, okay? We are a community, and we should be the happiest community in the world, because we get to work with incredible patients, with the furriest, cutest patients, and we should be thankful, you know? So yeah, best of luck in the application. I know you can do this. I believe in you, and if you don't believe in yourself, I believe in you, but that mindset has to change, okay? So if you guys have any questions, just please feel free to message me on Instagram, on my email, on Facebook. I want to help all of you become vets, so please let me know anything you might need, even if it's just like positive reinforcement, or if you want me to help you with your essays, or if you want to learn more about the study abroad program, just let me know. I'm here for y'all, and thank you. Yay!